I'm aromantic asexual, which means I don't feel any romantic or sexual attraction. It means like I've never had a crush, I've never wanted to have sex with anyone. It's just kind of not a thing for me.
Being ace means to me that sexual attraction isn't necessarily part of my romantic or dating experiences. It can be. I personally find that it's not the most relevant factor.
Demisexual is where you don't feel attraction to people without feeling a specific bond with them.
I still experience aesthetic attraction. I still feel like I need to be attracted to my partner, but the only difference is I'm not sexually attracted.
What I want people to know about aromantic asexuality is that it's not something we're going to grow out of. So often I hear from people that one day we'll find someone who will complete us, or one day we'll end up getting married or something. We're not going to grow out of it. We're always going to be aromantic asexual. No one's going to change that for us.
Some of the hard things about being demisexual are just trying to explain it to people who apparently live their lives full of like sexual frustration. It's like a life full of it versus a life absent of it, and trying to find like a accepted middle ground between it, which is more ridiculously difficult than it should be.
The reason I love being aromantic asexual is I don't have to deal with romantic relationships, which seem a little bit difficult from what I've heard from other people.
I wish people knew that all asexual people are different. We have different wants and needs, and we have great variety of differences between us, like most humans.
I guess also just that it doesn't necessarily define my sexual behavior. It just indicates a lack of sexual attraction. I do still occasionally have sex. That's the thing that I can do if I want to, like eating a pizza.
Just because romantic love or sexual love isn't part of your life doesn't mean you can't be compassionate and caring. Love, it comes in so many different ways. Platonic, it could be for your family, pets, the world. It's one of my least favourite assumptions people have, because I like to think I'm a really caring person. I don't like the idea that we're cold-hearted because of our sexuality or romantic identity.
Some of the hard things about being demisexual is that it's barely even heard of, and being part of the LGBT community, people automatically assume that means you want to do sexual things with everybody of that, I don't know, same gender or of the LGBT community in general.
What I wish people would know about homoromanticism is that it's just about relationships. I just want a caring, tender relationship with another woman, and that's all it needs to be. That's all I want, is just a romantic relationship with another woman.
One thing that I would like to say to just people who are struggling to come to terms with being asexual or any of these other identities is just that there are communities out there that will help you. We've also got the internet now, and groups like InsideOUT are great. It's just there are people who share your identity, and you're not alone, and there are people you can talk to.
I've had a lot of friends come up to me and be like, but like, are you actually a lesbian?
Well, which one do you think you're going to end up with?
Or they're like, would you ever actually be in a relationship with a girl? And I'm like, yes, I'm bi.
Being pansexual for me is mean I love everyone.
Me feeling that I'm both sexually and romantically attracted to a variety of genders, not just one.
Being bisexual means to me that I like all genders. I like my own gender and I like other genders.
There isn't necessarily a huge difference between bisexuality and pansexuality. Those terms can mean the same thing. It's all about your definition and what you identify as. You know, bi means two, and two doesn't necessarily mean male and female. Bi can mean same and other genders. I can be in a relationship with a bisexual person and they're not transphobic, they're not erasing my identity, they're just being bisexual and they're just attracted to me. It's completely valid. It's all about what you identify as.
The reason I love being bisexual is it feels really nice to have a community of queerness that I can be a part of.
I love the flag. The bi pride flag is so cool. It's got that colour coordination.
The reason I love being bisexual is that it challenges people all of the time.
I love like the variety of people I've been able to meet through it. Parties where just offhandedly mention it and be like, wait, you're bi? I'm bi too.
My gaydar is terrible, but I can always spot another bisexual in the crowd. Always.
Being either pansexual or bisexual doesn't make your fidelity any less valid. In terms of being faithful to someone is to do with you as a person, not your sexuality.
Some people assume I'm dangerous or I will sleep with everyone.
It's not just like a sexual thing for girls to like make out with other girls at parties. When we're at parties and we make out with other girls, it's because we want to make out with that girl.
When people think of like bisexual women, they oftentimes feel that they're doing it for the attention of men. In regards to like bisexual men, I think very often people think it's just because they're scared to come out as gay.
It's hard being bisexual because you don't feel like you fit into the straight sector of society, but at the same time you have to fight so hard to be accepted in queer spaces.
Oh, why don't you just pick a side?
Sometimes I think it would be straight up easier if I identified as being gay.
So some of the things that I wish people really wouldn't say, oh, that's really hot, would you ever have a threesome? Which is not only none of their business, but also it's such a huge leap. Yeah, we've just met, oh yeah, you like cats, oh yeah, would you also like a threesome?
I would really like people to know that being bisexual doesn't mean necessarily that you are polyamorous, that a lot of bisexual people are monogamous, though not all of them.
Bisexual guys aren't just actually gay guys who are in the closet, and bisexual women aren't just straight girls who like experimenting. It's not all about the man.
Sexuality is like a spectrum, and that for the most part people fall somewhere in between, like fully heterosexual and fully homosexual. Like that, it's quite like a broad field, and you can land anywhere on it and still identify yourself as being bisexual.
You don't have to be 50-50.
10% attracted to women, 90% attracted to men, and still identify yourself as bisexual.
I would tell my younger bisexual self, or anyone considering that they could be bisexual, that you can be proud of that it is valid, that it's normal. Being queer or being bisexual is normal.
Being intersex is like a general term that's used for quite a wide variation of sex characteristics, and they can be like reproductive or like anatomically diverse, which I guess sits outside of some ideas around what a normal body is. My name is Kelly, sometimes Jelly. I identify as she, her, intersex female.
My name is Ki. I use they pronouns most of the time. I identify both in terms of gender and sex as intersex.
Up to 30 or maybe even more different variations of being intersex. Some variations are as common as having red hair, is one of our favourite quotes that we like to use.
I love that I guess I get the opportunity to be open about being intersex more than I love anything else about being intersex, if that makes sense.
Being intersex for me means being magic, and instead of less than, I really see it as more than. The term intersexy is something that I particularly like and reflects some of my personal power around being intersex.
I guess I define intersex as being everything from conditions like I have, which is congenital adrenal hyperplasia. All your sex markers don't line up. Your chromosomes might not line up with how you look, might not line up with how you experience puberty, might not line up with whether you're fertile in a specific way. You might have testicles but up in your body and still have a uterus, or have one or the other, or neither, or both.
I personally, I love mystery. I think just understanding that there's nothing scary about it. And actually, everyone's bodies are, they've got their own special kinks and qualities, just a casual third nipple or an extra toe, that. it's great.
Being intersex is a lot of things, really. But for the most part, like growing up, it meant not really knowing why anything was happening to me. And I think that's a really common part of the intersex experience. Some of us didn't really get to know what our bodies were doing until we became adults, which was kind of the case for me.
What I would like people to know about being intersex is just something for them to start their own research. There's this amazing resource called the Internet. Rainbow Youth have a really great pamphlet actually that is like a really great starter around introducing yourself to what intersex means or could mean. There's always the classic, like maybe don't jump straight into asking people about their genitals, maybe ask whether they're a cat or a dog person first.
When you've been dealing with doctors poking and prodding you from a very young age and you've been told over and over, never ever show your body or talk about your body to anyone else, and I think that's sadly a really common part of the intersex experience. Being really vulnerable because of this society of shame wouldn't happen if our parents and our doctors just talked to us and let us make decisions about our own bodies.
One of the hardest things about being intersex is the medical intervention, historic and still ongoing. I personally have had quite a lot of experience with medical intervention that was without informed consent, and that is something that I'll carry with me. I've got some amazing lessons and strength from that experience, but I'd really like that to not happen to anyone else.
If you think you might be intersex, I am sorry to say that it's going to be difficult. Look into it. Don't take your doctor's word for it. There's not that much out there on the internet, but what's there you can cobble together, and if you can't, there are intersex organizations all over the place and they're not gonna hate on you for not being sure yet. All we want to do is help each other find out the truth.
I would say to my younger self that you're perfect. It shouldn't be a secret and it shouldn't be something that you're ashamed of.
I would be lying if I didn't say that I loved being kind of unique and special.
Being non-binary means to me not 100% identifying with the binary genders of male or female.
I love being gender fluid, genderqueer, because it just gives me the space to be exactly who I want to be.
When talking about my gender identity, I often talk about how I feel that gender is something that we're socialized into and that it's not necessarily such an inherent thing.
Being non-binary means I don't fit into either of the binary genders.
Being non-binary is like going back to who I am culturally, which is we don't buy into the whole boy, girl, he, she, your biological bits affect who you are as an identity.
I think what being non-binary and trans-feminine means to me is just me being able to do my thing, and I'm okay with that, and to have, you know, a word and a community to surround me who feel a very similar way.
Identifying as gender fluid or genderqueer, I feel for the most part people will assume that you are something, like you are a specific gender, and then try to make a stereotype around what gender they think you are.
Things that I wish people would not say or do with regards to my identity. Oh, they, them is used for plurals of people. Isn't being non-binary just another category that you put yourself into? Isn't that just as bad as being male or female only?
Genitalia or your gender identity doesn't have to dictate who you are as a person or how you behave or how you interact with others or your sexual identity.
People will see me as a male, assume that because I might have some eye shadows smudged across my face, I might have nails on, I might be in heels, that it was like, oh, that's a gay male. I don't think it comes from a place of hate or aggression. It's just, it's not who I am, and it's not how I would like to be identified.
With being non-binary, I would like people to know that it's not a choice. We're not special snowflakes or people who need a hobby. It's definitely a deep feeling that people have to come to terms with, and it's, you know, non-binary people are not attention seeking, they're just being the most authentic version of themselves they can be.
I believe that for me to be queer, to be non-binary, It's just being who I am.
I realized I was trans when I was maybe like 14, and I very much thought that it was a very binary thing. Cool, I'm a woman, a gal, a lady. But over time, I feel like I ended up being just as ingenuine as I was being before, except just in a very different way that I thought was healthier, but it wasn't. And so I think eventually it wasn't a moment of big realization. It was kind of just a long, slow realization of, hey, you know, I don't think this fits within a binary of gender.
So I wish that people would educate themselves before asking invasive questions to trans people in particular. For instance,
asking me which bathroom I use,
or any questions to do with people's genitals is really not your business. And also, every trans or non-binary person is not like a walking encyclopedia on the topic of being trans or non-binary. You should really get some initiative and research yourself instead of maybe asking trans or non-binary people all of the questions that you have.
Some things I would like people to know about being non-binary is that for the most part we're kind of just trying to do our thing and live in a healthy and genuine way, and we're not kind of trying to ask for anything super radical.
I just like that freedom of being who I want to be because it's me, instead of because I think that, oh, a boy should do this, oh, a girl should do this.
While it's not easy figuring out who you are, and it can be a long process for some, there is so much support out there for you, and there are like a lot of amazing groups and amazing people who you can reach out to who will love and support you regardless.
We were all recognised as unique members of society. Akawaine, TAKATAPUI, Whakaleiti, Whawhawhine. Then colonisation came along and took that part of our history away from us. Now, some of our elders are almost quite hesitant, but they're only thinking that because of colonisation.
The reason why I love being a whawhawhine, it expresses my cultural identity because I can trace back in the history that date back way before the missionary and colonial rulers appeared on island.
What I love about being brown queer, I enjoy so much of just the exposure of like putting my stuff out on stage. I'm a performing artist, but I do things to the extent of representing who I am 100%.
Yeah, I think the thing about being diverse in sexuality and in ethnicity is that it comes with different obstacles you have to pass. In real conservative Pacific Islander families, they're not so open to it, and that's not something that is talked about so often. Often it is actually frowned upon, and it's a difficult situation to be in.
Being Samoan and bisexual means everything. It's not been easy, but let's just say I'm glad that I've come out.
In Samoa, you don't hear of the terms transgender or gay. Samoan people in Samoa classify us as whawhawhine and they call us whawhawhine.
Being Pacifica and queer, there's always this moment where I believe that there are some penalties to it. There's also a gift. I can be this glamorous brown-skinned diva who owns the stage for the amount of time she has, or I can be this dancer who just moves her body the way she feels, because it's obviously embedded into me that I'm enriched with language and culture. That's how I move, that's how I portray myself.
Being Samoan and bisexual, it's true there's no terminology for that. Just because there's no terminology for that in Samoan culture doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because we are out here.
What being Akawaine means to me is several things. The first one is who I am culturally, because first and foremost, I take my culture with me everywhere I go. Secondly, it's an easy way for my Pacific community. Everyone has a role. You have the male's job, the female's job, and then you have the job of the Akawaine.
I think some of the hard things about being whawhawhine is social acceptancy. To me, the general statement that's been floating around that whawhawhine are accepted in Samoa, I believe they're actually tolerated. And that comes back to sort of the missionary and colonial rulers and how they have filtered Samoan people in Samoa.
It's weird too because Samoans always have this thing of embracing the whawhawhine, but it has to be this one particular type of whawhawhine, which is the whole stay at home, cleans, does all the chores, looks after the kids, like just domesticated fafa and not this kind of fafafinga that's like free and they're finding themselves and quite expressive with their wardrobe. That's probably the hard thing.
Some of the hard things about being Samoan and bisexual, I would say religious part and what I feel I put my family through. It's taken me a while to come out. I didn't want my family to get any backlash. My family is quite religious. They're really into the Christianity and Samoan culture. I just didn't want anything bad to happen to them.
What I would say to the younger people is that there is help out there and there's other people. All you gotta do is just reach out and not be afraid, because it may seem crazy at the time, but you got people that are there for you regardless.
My education counts as any criticism to being whawhawhine. You must be educated, it is our weapon.
I've been there and it's going to be a hard journey, but I kid you not, at the end you will be one hell of an amazing person and you will walk down the middle of that road strutting your stuff and owning it.
Being non-binary is like going back to who I am culturally, which is we don't buy into the whole boy, girl, he, she. In my culture and my language, there is no he or she kind of pronouns. There's only they or this person or that person, and that's how you always refer to people.
Like for me, I knew that I wanted to use they pronouns in English because I knew that I felt most comfortable in Mandarin, where ta is the pronoun for everyone, but there's no ta in English, and I had to pick one, and so it wasn't they.
Our Thai version of queer identity, we call it as the third gender, an umbrella term for queer identities or any queer genders, and I feel like I kind of fit into this.
So to me, being gay and Asian, it means that there is a lot of conflict between those two communities, and it's hard to keep defending one community when you belong to the other. On the flip side, it also means that you get to be a part of both of those communities, which is great.
People who are queer or gay are generally more accepting. There is still a lot of discrimination, and that usually relates to race. So there is still that hierarchy of who is desirable and who is not, who's worth another look or not.
I think about my culture, it's hard because we went through a lot of colonialism, like 4 countries, basically 3 or 4 countries, like took the Philippines, and we took a little bit of culture and expectations of what it means to be a woman or a man from all those different cultures. They kind of said, well, women do this, men do that. I guess we don't really know what we were before.
For me, being queer and Thai at the same time, it means like I'm living in the 2 worlds. It seems to me that it doesn't relate to each other. Being Thai means like I'm concerning my family's obligations and protecting my family's spaces. Meanwhile, being queer can mean like I don't conform to any social rules or norms when I'm in love with someone.
If in China, I can still not tell my parents. My mom is quite open-minded, but she still not accept this kind of thing.
It's for most of us who are migrants especially, there's a lot of parental mourning a lot of the time, no matter how comfortable they are with what they might consider Western values. Your being queer is a sign that you're not as Asian as we hoped you were. Coming to a country like New Zealand as an Asian person, as an Asian parent who wants the best for their kids, you hope that they will have a better life and a broader life. But on a lot of levels, you also hope that they won't grow up to be people who are alien to you. And that does hurt for a lot of Asian parents, seeing their kids grow up in such a way that they don't really recognize them anymore as part of this ethnic identity that's so important to them.
Yeah, one of the hardest things about being gay and Asian is the role of expectations, and that does give a bit of a burden.
Actually, a lot of cultures don't have a concept of gender or sexuality, which means they don't have a sense of transphobia or homophobia, or at least until they were colonized.
Oh no, it's so brave of you to fight your homophobic Asian family. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's definitely something that a lot of us have to deal with. But it's really, really rude getting that stuff from white people who sort of think that white people as a whole are better about homophobia than Asian people. You know who brought homophobia to Asia? Christian missionaries. Now you're coming here and being like, oh, I'm so sorry that you guys are so backward. That's really offensive, and I really hate when that happens.
Stop thinking that you are lesser than people who are white, because color is great. And that's it. Stay strong. Everything will fall in place.
I think we would all be better off if we were a bit more patient with each other when we meet new people, when we try and find out what people are about.
One of the reasons I really like being a gay parent is I think it provides me opportunities to educate and inform other people. Being part of a rainbow family gives me an opportunity to be a positive role model.
I have 2 children and I'm married. I have a husband. I also have a girlfriend, and Jack lives with me as well because he's my super best friend in the world, and he also helps me co-parent my children. So it's kind of a queer poly situation with another queer human in the mix.
One of the things I'd like people to know about being a queer parent or part of a rainbow family is that it's pretty boring sometimes. We still have to make the bed, we still argue about who's making lunches, we still have to buy groceries, we still spend too much time on the couch on our phones. There's lots and lots of normal things about our family structure.
Being a queer parent to me means letting your kids experience life how they want to, letting them be raised in an accepting and open environment where they can talk and question things with their parental figures without the fear of judgment.
And one of the things that I'd also like you to know is that it would be really appreciative if people didn't make assumptions about my family structure. Lots of the time I get asked what my husband does or who is my husband, and an easy way to change that is just to ask who my partner is or my significant other.
As a queer parent, some of the things I wish that people wouldn't say or do would be assume that they understand the structure of my family, or that the structure of my family is not beneficial to my children. I also wish that people didn't automatically assume that because I am married to a man with children that are biologically his, that I am straight, because I'm not. I know that it's a very easy thing to do. You see a woman and a man and 2 children and they're married and living together, and so you're like, oh, it makes sense that they'd be straight. But it's really disheartening to feel like I don't belong in my own community because I live in a married relationship. But I'm polyamorous. My husband sees other people. I have girlfriends, and we have Jack who lives with us in a completely platonic let me make that clear. He's part of my family. He's like, love him very heaps.
Once in the supermarket, the checkout guy went, oh, you don't look gay. She, I could tell straight away is gay, but you, I had no idea. Some kind of accusation that I was tricking him into thinking something different. I get it that you could look at me on the street and have no identity markers. I think the challenge in general is to expand their choices of options.
So queer parenting means, to me, doing whatever feels right for your family and showing your children that you can have separate identities and that there is more outside of the super normal one mother, one father. Essentially, we have 2 father figures in our family and 2 mother figures, and it's all a great little bundle of weirdness.
I love being a queer parent because I like watching these kids try and develop and experiment with stuff. The 2 boys, both of them have experimented with makeup because they see me do it. They just take it as a normal and they haven't gendered makeup.
A lot of the time, if you let your child express themselves in whichever manner they want, people will assume that they're mirroring your behaviour. People assume that I'm pushing my values as a queer person and a queer mother on the children, whereas I'm not. I'm just trying to let them be who they want to be. Queer parents are doing their very best to raise good people just like any other parent.
I think it's really important to know that if you would like a family, then that's really possible. There's been generations where they don't feel that's been possible. There's a level of empathy there for me. I feel really blessed to be a parent, and I feel really blessed to have the life that I've got, and I feel very, very grateful for everybody that's gone before me that's made my life as safe as it is right now. It's not always super safe. I still don't want to do some things that I would have if I was dating a guy, but I feel very lucky. The future for people under the umbrella of rainbow is much more positive than it ever has been before.
I know that I'm doing my very best to bring up open-minded, non-judgmental, beautiful human beings. As a queer parent, I enjoy it because I'm equipping my children to be beautiful, well-rounded humans.
Relax into who you want to be. Know that it doesn't have to be forever. At the end of it all, if you're struggling with your identity, find somebody or get some help. It will be fine.
Well, what TAKATAPUI means to me is that it's a blend where you embrace both your culture and sexuality. You need to embrace both of those aspects of yourself, not just be one or the other, and then have those in harmony. That's my definition of TAKATAPUI.
I can be tangata whenua, I can be Māori, I can acknowledge my ancestors and the fight that they made, but also acknowledge that I'm part of the rainbow community. I can acknowledge that there has been a continuous fight for our rights and for equity, and I can acknowledge that that is still happening, all in one identity.
Being TAKATAPUI means to me being able to celebrate both my gender and sexuality diverseness as well as my cultural diversity and my heritage. I am better able to kind of connect both of those aspects of myself, and it just makes me feel more complete.
To me, being Māori is one of the many facets that make up my ethnicity, and this is my native country, and I'm surrounded by so much of that part of my heritage. It's become like a major cornerstone in my ethnic identity.
I wish some things people knew about being Māori and LGBT. It's not easy to juggle culture along with general binary norms into a underrepresented identity. It takes a lot of self-love and time to find yourself before you can even tell people about it.
There is often that acronym that gets truncated, at the most known identities regarding sexuality. So it's important to me that culture is mixed in of sexual orientation so that it encompasses you fully, what you're about without, because I don't see that they're mutually exclusive. They have to be seen together. So it really gives, I guess, a whole perspective of your being rather than just part of it.
Some hard things about being TAKATAPUI include having trouble potentially relating to other people within the LGBT community because I am mixed race and also Māori, and sometimes people can be a little bit ignorant about what being culturally diverse means.
Something I struggle with very often is being bi and being part Māori is that people often assume I'm 100% gay and that I'm 100% white, and it can be quite difficult to put myself out there and be no, that's not a fully accurate belief in who I am.
For a rangatahi up and coming to assert their identity and not conform, and this comes from Rose Pere, who's a prominent Māori healer. She calls it the expression stand in your own mana. So you don't need to fit in, you need to be yourself, and if people embrace you, ka pai. If they don't, then they shouldn't really be in your world anyway because they're not accepting you as you are.
Being Māori doesn't mean that you're anything less, and being part of the LGBT community in general doesn't mean that you're any less either. They're both accepted and a part of life.
He waka I ki noa, we're all on this journey together.
What it means to me to be transgender is that I'm happy in the skin I'm in. I've overcome body dysphoria, and I've learned to love the body I used to hate.
What it means to be
transgender or whakawhine for me is living your authentic self, following your gut and your feeling of how you identify yourself.
It means I get to be authentic all the time.
Being trans means a lot to me. I can really be myself. I can show to this world truly who I am.
The thing I'd like people to know about being trans is that there's no recipe. Each person walks their own path.
I didn't choose this. This isn't some kind of ploy to jump the gender pay gap or something.
I wish people knew that when you're a trans man, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to start finding your love for being a lumberjack and throwing trucks and being the most masculine person in the world. I mean, I wear dresses on the weekends, I paint my nails, I wear jewellery. I am an extremely effeminate person, but I am 100% a guy.
The hardest things I found was probably losing people along the way, but I guess it shows who's really down for you and who's there to support you at the end of the day.
Other hard things like your parents not support you and your friends cannot comprehend you, and some of your old friends when they know you are a transgender, they just stay away from.
I guess I wish there was a lot more trust as well, because there's a lot of gatekeeping, especially around the medical community, in regards to trans people getting access to transitional medical stuff like hormones or surgery, or just being understood and being heard. There's a lot of blocks there, and having to see a psychologist, it kind of feels like you have to prove your transness instead of being taken at your word.
Some of the hard things about being disabled and trans is dealing with medical professionals who may not see you as healthy enough to transition, or they blame your sicknesses on being transgender. And it's very strange when you're in a lot of pain and you're telling your doctor, I am in a lot of pain, and they go, oh, it's because you're so sad about being transgender.
It's a hard lifestyle. If you know anyone or anyone that's going through the transition, is to give them all the support and love that you can give them. Try and have an open mind.
It's okay to shine. Don't try and blend in. The most important thing for people to know is to love the skin they're in, and when you feel your own love, it radiates out from you, and suddenly the world changes from a darker place to a place where people stop you on the street and tell you how proud they are to see you shine.
I would tell my younger self that the truth will set you free, and just live in your truth and don't hide behind other people's expectations of what you're meant to be, but just be truthful to yourself.
If I could say anything
To young people who are
struggling
with their identity,
is that
you can be proud of who you are while still struggling.
It may seem crazy at the time, but you got people that are there for you regardless.
I would say to my younger self, be brave.
Take your time.
reach out and find the people who love you for you, and if they don't accept you and don't love you, then they're not someone to be in your crowd.
At the end of the day, what's the matter the most? The feeling competing inside?
You're going to be a lot more fiercer, you're going to be a lot more unique and sassy. Just own it.
There's nothing wrong with you, and even though you may not fit into the general perception of normal, you're still beautiful and complete just the way you are.
I know it's a cliche to say things like it gets better and you are not alone, but it's a cliche to say these things because they're true.
Whatever you're waiting for, whether it's surgery or hormone replacement therapy or a name change, time passes quickly and these things do come along and they do finally happen.
The time it takes to become yourself is so important, and it's okay to give yourself that time. The world may not be ready for you, but as long as you're ready for you and how you want to be, that's the most important thing.
You're perfect.
Don't give any ground to people that want to make you feel less.
You don't have to come out to other people. That's way less important than coming out to yourself.
It's okay to take it slow and just keep figuring stuff out, and you can even change. It's not set in stone.
You don't need to fall in love and get married and have children in order to have a life that's worth something.
Stop trying to cling to anything that you think could make things better, because it's not suddenly going to become better or easier. It's a thing you have to work through.
To parent as genuinely as you can.
Experiment, try out whatever different pronouns and labels and sexualities, whatever works for you.
Mess around with it. If everyone was open-minded to how you can be, then there wouldn't be issues.
Relax into who you want to be. Know that it doesn't have to be forever. And if you're really struggling, get some help.
It's gonna be okay, you know, it's all gonna work out. It totally feels like it won't, but like, spoiler alert, it totally will.